everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorder, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachdanamzalag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our 10th and last episode of season 20, a very special guest and living all the way down under in Australia, the holistic health practitioner, Sharon Sammut. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Sharon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dan, and thank you for having me here. I'm Sharon Sammut, as you've already mentioned. I am a holistic health practitioner, PSYCH-K facilitator, an entrepreneur for over 18 years. So my journey did start in business, and my husband and I run a construction company. And about 5 years ago or so, I felt like it was time for change. And I went down the path of PSYCH-K, which is a process where we shift limitations at a subconscious level. And then I went actually back to university at the age of 40, maybe 3 at the time. And I studied with Quantum University and but completed my bachelor's in holistic health sciences. So definitely a big journey. Still, I see clients one-on-one, but I'm moving more into the online space now because I feel that I can reach and touch more people with the knowledge and the information. So that's where I'm at the moment, still running parts of investment company as well as doing this side of things. So I'm a little bit of everything, but this is definitely where my heart and soul is. And I feel like I was called to take on this journey. Just noticed that there was a lot of people asking questions and not getting the answers they needed. I think it's definitely a day and age where consciousness is on the rise and people are needing more support. People need answers to their questions. And for me, it's mostly about empowering people to step outside of what's been limiting them for so long and not taking the step forward and having the confidence to live life authentically, whatever that means to them. So that's definitely, it's been a big calling card, but definitely very enjoyable, and I absolutely love doing it. So I'm just a go-getter. I just love experiencing, learning, because ultimately our true self, which is the self that everybody is always searching for, is the one that keeps on learning, is the one that keeps on evolving. So in my line of work there is a lot of talk about energy, and when we do talk about energy, we're talking about infinite, and that means we too are infinite. So I think for many people are feeling stuck because they've stopped learning, they've stopped exploring themselves, they're sitting in their comfort zone. So what PSYCH-K is all about is bringing those limitations to conscious awareness and shifting them into a way we want it to be instead. And then you just see people propel and just go beyond themselves in the present moment. So it's really rewarding.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today. And for our many listeners, like I mentioned earlier, Sharon is living in Australia, so she's a day ahead. So we're talking to someone into the future, and she's talking to someone into the past, which is
well, really, and it's really early here. Don't forget to mention that. I think my brain is just switching on. So there we go.
So, we're talking about the fact that you decide to make that change. You see, like you mentioned a few things about people are afraid not just to change, but to get out of their comfort zone, to be able to do something that is completely different, but yet can be risky because of the unknown and also because of the fear of failure. So if you could explain to our listeners, why is it so important? Because obviously in life, there's always risk. And sometimes the risk can really render amazing result, but it also can hinder progress in people if they fail. So how do you teach people, Sharon, about not being afraid of this unknown and jumping into jumping with a leap of faith, so to speak? So how can you teach people how to move forward from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, well, what it actually does come down to is perspective. So if your perception is, and if you go into something thinking that there's a potential to fail, that's already been made a possibility. Okay. So we don't want the possibility of failure. We want things to be a lesson, something we learn from, and we take the lesson and we move on. In my world, there's no such thing as failure. Everything is something we learn from and we take on to the next step. Me, myself, I've succeeded great in business, and there's been times, if you would like to call it failure, I'm not sure, but there's been times I weren't so successful, okay? But it's those times that make me reflect on what I can do differently and how I can grow from the experience. I don't perceive things as failure. And in PSYCH-K, a lot of what we do is change the perception about the way we think about things. And a lot of the time you're uncomfortable because something is telling you that you shouldn't step forward. Okay, and generally it's a limiting belief. And what a limiting belief is a thought that's repeated over and over, and that you're now is believing is true for you because you're believing it. So what I perceive as possibly not succeeding, I really don't like to use the word failure, let's say failing, you would perceive differently because your life experience is different. And as we gain awareness around this, we too will start seeing and feeling more comfortable about trying new things. And one of the things I do, because I do have an online program as well, at the end of the program, there's a 4-week challenge. And what I call it is riding the waves of possibilities. So saying yes to something new at least once a week. And yes, it can be something small, but it's getting you comfortable with the feeling of almost feeling uncomfortable, because that's the way forward. That's the growth. That's the evolution. If we just stay where we are, that means we're not growing anymore, and that means we're not living our potential. So for me, perception, shifting those limitations that are keeping us stuck. And that's something that I go over, and riding those waves of possibility, saying yes to something new, and really having a think about what that is bringing to you. So even if you're going into a new coffee shop, some people are hesitant of this. They like to do their routine, and they go to the same coffee shop in the morning or whatever it be, the same walking path. But one day you might decide to say yes to trying a different coffee. You might meet somebody new, different smells, different environment, create different sensations within you, different food choices. So it's all a new awareness, it's all a new experience. And who knows, there might be somebody in there that's, going to take you to the next part of your journey. Who knows? But the possibilities are unlimited, because like I said earlier, we are unlimited. The possibilities for us are endless. And it's about exploring ourselves and stepping outside of that comfort zone. So yeah, they're the main things that I talk about. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they say also that the acronym FAIL, FAIL, is first attempt in learning. So there's always a positive in any negative word. And also they mentioned that one of the days, with all the reading that I've done, loser or a winner is actually a loser who tried one more time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you'd like to see, for me, the way I see it, because like I said, I come from the energy perspective. But to me, when you're using those words, you're creating that possibility for yourself in your life. And we don't want to create failure as a possibility. We want to create knowledge, lessons, success. But failure, we don't want that to exist for us. Because the moment we think about, for example, I had somebody talking to me about, and actually this is a really good example, that they're starting a new business and they're working really, really hard because they don't want it to fail.
Okay.
So they've made failure a possibility in that business. Okay, do you understand? Yeah, so it's really about perception and the words we speak. And as we know, the words we speak, that holds the energy that runs through us and beyond us as well. So yeah, there's lots in this,
Oh,
but
yeah.
from our thoughts to our words, our perceptions, our programs, so much here. But I really do like to perceive that everything is meant for us
Mhm.
at that time, and we take the lesson and we evolve from that.
But it's like, like you decide to go to school at a later age and you finish your bachelor and all. Um, Obviously, as we get older, we have the tendency not to have as much focus as we had when we were younger. And the way that we
Yeah.
absorb information is not as quick. So obviously, what we do in a year at this age, in our mid-40s, will probably take 3 months when we were 20. So now,
Perhaps,
yeah,
but I was lucky because COVID.
that,
So it gave me lots of time. So I had lots of time on my hands. The company was doing a little bit, but I'm not sure if you guys heard about the depths of what we went through in Melbourne, which was ridiculous. But we weren't allowed to go to work in the construction industry. So there was a lot of time for me to have my head down.
yes.
And it's also my passion. Okay. I found that I'd been since my early 20s exploring natural health therapies and all that sort of thing. So for me, it was my passion. So what I was studying was part of who I was. So it was all exciting. I mean, hard, because you're right. There's a lot of other things that are included, like kids. Like when you're 20s, you don't have kids, you don't have a job, you don't have to cook dinner.
Yeah.
McDonald's would have done back then, but how not for me. I don't think I've had any of that for 10 years. But you know what I mean? So there's other things that need to be addressed at an older age, I guess. But I feel like for me, and again, perception, because I'd already studied Psych-K prior to taking on my path at the university. So I'd already explored the programs, the perceptions, and started shifting those limitations. And I had a hell of a lot of them. I'm too old. What are people going to think? Leaving a company as well that was making me a lot of money. What is she doing? Am I going to succeed in this? What am I thinking? But I just went with my innate feeling of this is my path forward. And I just got through it. But yeah, it was a little bit harder. But actually, I think I was probably more ready now than I would have been in my 20s, to be honest, to take on this journey. I think there needed to be a lot of life experiences and lessons
Yes.
as well to make me better and more relatable in my work. Because when you think about your why, my why is that I connect with people, I give them the confidence to shift. And as much as I can't do that for someone, I can support them and they can resonate with my story, which gives them a little bit more courage to pursue what they're wanting to move forward with. So, yeah.
But do you think that if, let's say, your path in life would have been different in terms of, working in a construction company or your life experiences and all that, do you think that deep inside of you, that was your calling from the beginning?
Yeah, I do actually. I do, and I really do. I do believe and perceive that everything I went through in life got me to this point.
Okay. And throughout your life, when it comes to, if let's say we focus more on the limiting belief, everyone has them. Okay. This is
Of course.
part of our DNA, if we would call it. Now, do you think that this in itself, Sharon, if let's say some people avoid spreading the word about to the whole planet to say, oh, this is my project, or this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I want to do, and go on social media and spit it out, whatever it is. If people learn to take things and keep it for themselves, in the fear of what the other people will think of them if they do fail. Do you think that fear of failure will eventually disappear because now they have nothing or no one to prove if they will succeed or fail?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, so if they're wanting to pursue something to move forward, but they have a limiting belief in themselves that they're not capable for whatever that program is in their subconscious mind. And we need to also be aware, and I do like to create pieces of awarenesses for people to take away with them, that a lot of the programs that are in us have been there since the very young age. From 0 to 7 is where we're programmed a lot. I mean, life experiences and beliefs and different experiences program us, and we can reprogram for all our life. But I do think that once you push past that comfort of being being uncomfortable, and you see that you are actually moving forward, that it will then start reprogramming, because the habits are then rewiring the brain, and then you are taking the action with your physical body, and that's downloading a new program in the subconscious mind. But if we stand back and go, oh my God, I'm so scared, and never take that step, that's the program we're holding on to. Does
But
that make sense? Does
yes,
that answer your question?
it answers this partially, but let's say if someone, they have limiting belief and they want validation from others, but by spreading the word that this is the project or the idea that they want to have, they're telling to the world, this is what I'm going to move forward. And then eventually these people that they spread the idea to will say, so how was your idea? And if they failed in it, this is where the embarrassment comes in. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, Sharon. You want
Yeah.
the validation from others to be able to get encouraged to move forward with your idea. But then if your idea do fail, then you have other people to say, so how was your project? Oh, it didn't go through, or this or that, and you feel embarrassed about it. So how
Yeah.
is the best angle to
Yeah. Look, first of all, again, perception. Is it failure? Secondly, who are you seeking support from? Because remember, the opinions of others are a reflection of their own subconscious programs.
correct?
And we're really good about giving opinions in this day and age. But I think we really need to step back and consider that, is the advice you're giving really about that person, or is it about you? So I would say those two things first. Your perception, is it failure? Have you really tried? And secondly, who are you seeking that support from? And how much validation do you need from someone else to tell you you're doing the right thing? I think we also need to go in and see and start working out what feels good to us and what's authentic to us, and then seek advice from experts or other people who have succeeded in the same field. So I don't think there's a straightforward answer for that. You can shift that limitation using, obviously, PSYCH-K. We muscle test and we find a new way of being and how we want it to be instead, and we can take the action through that awareness. But again, these are questions you need to be asking yourself. What feels good?
Yes.
Is this person giving me the right advice? Should I go get advice from someone else? I mean, I don't know, but every business I've ever started has always been on shaky ground, but you push forward, you push through, you get the advice, you get the support you need to propel you further. So, yeah.
But unfortunately, our society are so inclined to focus too much on instant gratification, Sharon.
Yeah,
If
they
they
are.
just put themselves like a deadline or some timeline to say, okay, within 6 months, if this business doesn't work, I'm going to move to something else. But sometimes we know that it takes decade before the business can actually
Yeah.
grow.
I mean, yeah, personally, I think it's at least 3 years until something is really solid.
So, yes.
From my personal experience, it does take time and energy to make things solid and have a solid foundation that will keep the business in a good position until you either want to sell it or change or whatever it be. But yes, but this is something that we need to be realistic about. If you're setting a goal to have a business in 3 months and you want it to be a multi-million-dollar business, how realistic are you being about your goals? And this is when you would probably, if you've not done it before, seek the advice from the experts in the field. Mm-hmm. And making sure you've got your business plan in place. And all this is creating an energy. And what I like to call it is moving with conscious intention. So if you've got a good business plan, mm-hmm. and you don't have to go to an expert for this, I'm sure there's something online that you can look up and craft. But if we're there, and this is what my program is all about, if we are there in thought, and if we are there in emotion, and if we are there in action, and all those elements are in resonance, so you're not just having a thought and not taking the action, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So we need to have our thoughts, emotions, and actions in resonance, vibrating at the same frequency in order to move consciously towards that goal. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, unfortunately, in this day and age, expect to have a thought and expect it to come to life. Yeah. Unfortunately, and I am a bit of a, this is what you see, what you get sort of person. Maybe it's the Australian way, I'm not sure. But, you know, let's be realistic. If you're wanting to lose 5 kilos and you're thinking you want to lose 5 kilos,
you do nothing.
But you're sitting on the couch all day watching Netflix and eating junk food, you're not going to reach that goal. And this is just realistic. And unfortunately, maybe a lot of people have been wrapped in cotton wool, but with success does come thought, emotion, and action.
Well, just
and
like,
it's not for a day.
Yes, the laws of attraction, why a lot of people kind of found them to be very erroneous, is that the thoughts become things, but between the thoughts and things, there's action and belief. But people say, well, I'm thinking about having a Lamborghini in my garage. Oh, 6 months later, nothing is in your garage. Well, what have you done to make this happen? And a lot of people cannot process that because obviously we're also so blinded by what's going on social media, Sharon, because we always try to compare ourselves of what this person or that influencer, or why do they have 100 million subscriber and why not me, and why this and why that. So that kind of like put a damper on people's perception about what reality is. And we know that the social media, 98% is fake. But people don't seem to understand that. It's very easy to go on and rent a mansion or ask a dealership to bring 6 Lamborghini in your garage and then film your program, whatever it is, and making people believe that this is the life that you're living.